Hello and welcome to WMT Reviews 12 Nights of Halloween. I am Wiseman Tanofsky. The world of cinema truly has given us some of the best horror movie icons of all time, and I'm sure they'll continue to haunt our nightmares for the rest of our lives. Just the thought of one of these killers coming after you with a knife, a machete, a bladed gauntlet, or a swarm of metal hooks on cold chains will send chills up anyone's spine. Whether they stalk us in our nightmares, emerge from the depths of our imagination, or just stand ominously on the street across from us, watching and waiting. The icons of the slasher horror franchise have all earned their place in the annals of cinema history, and will live on forever. But what could be scary about a man in a cell? Just an ordinary human man who's already been beaten, captured and locked away for all time, unable to follow, unable to chase, unable to harm you in any way. What's a man like that doing among killers like Ghostface, Chucky the Killer Doll and Pennywise the Clown? Or perhaps there's something more to this man. What if just by looking at you and reading your behaviours, just by speaking with you about the most trivial things, he's able to work his way inside your head and play with the very fabric of your mind? Just how much protection does that glass wall offer you from him? I'm talking, of course, about the cannibalistic psychiatrist Dr. Hannibal Lecter, one of the most unconventional horror icons in the pantheon of slasher films that I hold in my collection, because we very rarely see him kill anyone. More often than not, Lecter is a consultant lurking in a glass cell, giving clues wrapped in mysteries to aid or hinder a police investigation into the antics of another serial killer who happens to be operating at the time. Such was the case in the 1991 thriller classic The Silence of the Lambs, a film which skyrocketed the movie careers of both Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster for their incredible performances, left viewers writhing in their seats with its uncomfortable atmosphere, and took them on a thrill ride as they hunted down another Ed Gein-inspired serial killer in the form of Buffalo Bill. It's one of only a few films to take home an Academy Award in all 5 major categories. Let's take another look at Silence of the Lambs. So what's the story? Clarice Starling, played by Jodie Foster, is an FBI trainee who lands the case of a lifetime when she's assigned to assist in the hunting of wanted serial killer Buffalo Bill, played by Ted Levine. To aid in this, she's tasked with interviewing notorious cannibalistic serial killer Dr. Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins, at his cell in Baltimore State Hospital for the Criminally Insane. In an effort to gain the psychopath's confidence, Clarice barters information with him, sharing personal information about her childhood, while trying to keep the deranged doctor out of her head. As Lecter and Starling start to build up a psychological profile of Buffalo Bill, leading Starling to investigate the hometown of his first victim, Lecter escapes after having been transferred to a lower security establishment, while Clarice manages to locate, identify and take down Bill before he's able to kill a senator's daughter whom he'd abducted. While celebrating her victory, Clarice receives a call from Dr. Lecter congratulating her, before he quietly slips away and disappears into the crowd. It's clear to see why this film is regarded as a masterpiece of filmmaking almost universally. It's a perfectly executed and dramatic thriller which kept me on the edge of my seat for almost the entirety of its runtime. I think what makes this movie so thrilling is the choking air of suspense in each scene. Whether it's a long stream of dialogue between Lecter and Starling, or that creepy night vision scene in the dark towards the end. Sometimes the music adds to the tension, and sometimes its complete absence creates an eerie backdrop of silence on the discussion being had. Everything works so well together in this film. The actors are well complemented by the setting is perfectly matched by the score, and the pacing of the film does well to keep your attention and your nerves on edge. It's a brilliantly executed bit of film. So let's have a look at the man everyone remembers from this film, Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. It's a fantastic actor who can make your skin crawl, not only from the other side of a screen, but also while being contained behind bulletproof glass. Hopkins' tone, his delivery, and even his body posture all work spectacularly well to portray this ultimate movie psychopath. When Lecter speaks, everyone is hanging on every word, trying to root out the meaning behind what he's saying. There really is a sadistic joy to Hopkins' performance. His character knows something that these dullards need to know, and he's loving dangling the hope on the end of a hook in front of them. Then there's his chemistry with the young Jodie Foster. At first, when Lecter discovers she's a student, he almost immediately disregards her. But when Starling plays her own mind games back at him, he begins to show an interest which over the course of the film evolves into a fascination. It was Lecter, after all, who introduced the concept of the quid pro quo to their interviews, almost yearning to know more about this curious person who stands before his cell. Is he yearning to once more become the psychiatrist he used to be and walk Clarice through her own development? Or is he merely obsessing over this first interesting person that he's had a chance to speak to in so many years? Who can say what goes on in that mind of his, but Anthony Hopkins delivers one of his greatest performances and one of his all-time favourite characters. His movements are slick and fluid, his dialogue is delivered with the perfect level of psychopathy in his tone. The element of superiority, the intelligence of every word, it all melds perfectly to create this truly gripping and fascinating character. But of course, Lecter is not the only psychopath in this film. We also have Levine as Buffalo Bill. And my God, if anyone in this film is acting to rival Hopkins, it has to be this guy. Levine has a creepy and unusual feel to his performance. Just looking at him, you can tell there's something not quite right with this person. Scenes where he torments his captured victim are very uncomfortable to watch, and Levine gives a very scary performance for a character who is just a person. He's not a monster or a zombie or a vampire or anything like that. He's just a man, but my God is he creepy. Over the course of the film, we discover that Bill is crafting a woman's suit from the skinned flesh of his victims, adding another dimension to this deranged serial killer, but with just an element of sympathy, as he does see himself as a woman trapped in a man's body. But then we have scenes like the dancing scene with Goodbye Horses playing in the background, and you're right back into the fear of this clearly unbalanced human being. So what about Jodie Foster in the lead role of Clarice Starling? Considering how young Foster was in this movie, she gives a fantastic performance as the fledgling FBI officer. She portrays how unnerved she is by Lecter's commanding and dominating presence very well, but also does very well to show her character fighting through that fear in order to get her own job done through sheer determination to save that life, and the will to beat him at his own game. I've already said that these two play off each other fantastically, and they do share some of the best scenes in the film. You're wondering if she'll break under the pressure Lecter is putting on her. You wonder if anything of what he's telling her is true. It's a very believable and suspenseful performance, and it never fails to make the film for me. I also rather enjoy Anthony Heald as Dr. Chilton. He plays the petty, superiority complex-ridden little man very well indeed, creating an easily loathable character that I spent most of the film willing Lecter to do away with. I love a character that I love to hate. The Silence of the Lambs is a fantastically subtle and chilling thriller, which, like Dr. Lecter himself, creeps its way into your subconscious and never leaves. Once you've seen it, it changes your perspective of what makes a great film. Once again, this film doesn't rely on a massive body count and tons of gore to substitute for a dreary story portrayed by half-baked actors. It relies only upon the endless cranking of the tension. Sometimes you can't even bring yourself to breathe, it's so tense. The scene in which Starling investigates the storage locker, only to find the severed head sat in a jar, it still gives me chills even when I know what it's building up to. Every time I watch this film, I seem to take something new away from it, whether it be an appreciation for the score in a key moment, or just another chilling quote to change the atmosphere at a dinner party, and that to me makes it a standout success as a film. In even more ways than Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Silence of the Lambs thoroughly deserves its reputation as one of the greatest thrillers, if not films, of all time. It has some of the best acting performances I've seen in any movie for ages. It creates characters the likes of which you're unlikely to find anywhere else, and it steals the very air from your lungs with the sheer amount of tension, suspense, and psychological anxiety that it stirs within you. This film is utterly fantastic and remains to be one of my favourite movies of all time, and it earns itself a strong 9 on the Orsometer. Directors of thriller movies everywhere should come to this film and this film alone to learn just how it is done. Excellent performances, chilling execution, and a movie that definitely leaves its mark branded deep into your mind. A truly fantastic bit of filmmaking. So that is a 9 on the Awsometer for The Silence of the Lambs. I've been Wise Man Tanofsky. This has been WMT Reviews 12 Nights of Halloween. Thank you very much for listening.